Dunia. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to give the drummers, Dunia, a wonderful round of applause. Dunia, Dance, Drummers and Dance is the name of the organization. So one more time for Dunia. Dunia Drum and Dance, everyone. Good morning. My name is Ivan Holloway, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chairman of the board of directors for NDCC. As we get started, I want to take a moment and just say we are glad to be here in St. Paul, Minneapolis area to really celebrate the third annual Black Cooperative Agenda. This is indeed a great time and a great opportunity to come together and coalesce around ideas that move our communities and our people forward. So we are indeed excited to have each of you here from various places across the country. And as Ron noted in the Know Before You Go email to you guys, that you should have plenty of business cards so that you can actually exchange information, ideas, and thoughts about how we make our communities better. So very, very quickly, before we get started, I'd just like the board of NDC to stand right now and give a wave, if you could. As well as the staff of NDCC, headed by Mr. Ron Hance, who is also, he's over to my left, your right. And so we're excited to be here, this third annual agenda. I want to call to the floor real quickly our meditation for the morning, Ms. Judith Hopeland, Reverend Judith Hopeland, who will come and give us our opening meditation. Good morning.
Good morning, family. All right. I'd like to greet you in the language of Yoruba, Ekale. Good morning. All right. So here we are. How's everybody feeling? You're looking good. Give yourself some love. Give yourself a hug. Come on, recognize. It's a great day. If nobody told you yet this morning, let me be the first to tell you we love each other. We love you and we love each other. We love you. Now, let me just get this technology rocking, and we shall be good. So I was asked to do a meditation this morning. And that is what I'm going to do. And I want you to, first of all, whatever you're doing, if you're eating or in your bag, looking for stuff, could you just take a nice deep breath and find yourself in a quiet space within your own physical body and mind. Everybody ready for today? Being centered is so important for the work that you are doing and the work that we shall continue to do. So I ask you once again to take that nice, deep, relaxing, cleansing breath, recognizing that there is one presence and power by 1,000 different names. It is right here where you are. In fact, we call it our ancestors. Let us give some thanks and praise to our ancestors for being here present with us, for loving and guiding us as we move through this journey together. So Marcus Garvey said it. He said, "Up, you mighty people, accomplish what you will." Up, you mighty people, accomplish what you will. Would you just go with me, taking a nice deep breath, just go in and center yourself on those words of the Honorable Marcus Garvey. That you feel that rising up in you for the work you are doing here. That you feel the brotherhood and the sisterhood of everyone sitting near you and all those you are going home to serve. Rise up in this consciousness today. Have the confidence to know that you are on the right path, doing exactly the right thing to bring cooperative, collaborative growth and development to our peoplehood. Breathe that in. That's who you are today. You're building your trust in each other. You're building your confidence in yourself. And you're taking on a warriorship. Just breathe that in. A warriorship is rising up in you right now. No, not to go out and do battle, to fight and destroy. A warriorship that is persistence. To keep on, keeping on, not in the hope alone, but in the work, in the energy, in the skills and the talents and the genius that you are. Bring it to bear today. Just breathe that in, find a space in you. And as you welcome yourself into this place, ask yourself, who am I being for this vision that's arising in me right now? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? What do I need to be? That this rising up in me finds a place, finds expression. Just breathe it in. Keep dreaming, keep visioning, keep seeing the genius you are, the creativity that's flowing in you right now as you welcome yourself into this place. Where are you taking this vision? Whose life are you going to touch and uplift today? What new connections will you make in these days to not only enrich your own work, but to enrich someone else's as well? How will you encourage yourself and others? How will you put this idea of unity and togetherness into practical application? Rise up, mighty people. Be the vision, because you are. We are our ancestors' vision. We made it. We're here today for a purpose and a plan. Be a part of it. Feel yourself and know you are a part of something very big, even bigger than ourselves. Give thanks, and you are able. So as this day progresses and you continue to grow in this vision of greatness that we are, I ask you now, and if you had your eyes closed, if you would simply just open them. Look around the room.
Smile at somebody you don't know. Feel that sense of confidence and joy in their face. See that creative genius. They're just a mirror of who you are. And as you move through today, hug somebody you don't know, for goodness sake. And most of all, enjoy as you do your special work. I welcome you and I thank you for grounding ourselves in this wonderful moment. Be at peace. Ashe?
Let me get my hug. Thank you so much, Reverend Judith Hokma. We're going to now have spoken word by Ms. Tish Jones. Tish Jones, our spoken word, and we're looking forward to an exciting spoken word.
Today, we gather toward a liberated future, a future in which our children once again know their neighbors by name, hang outside until streetlights shine bright, without fear of stop and frisk or, who is this? You don't belong here. Your existence is wrong here. When we own it, once we buy back the block, there will be no policing of our Black expression or existence. And what's better is that we will pass it on, pay it forward. We gather today toward inheritance. Black wealth and well-being rest heavily on our ability to collaborate, our ability to work toward common goals and mutuality. So we gather here to consider collectives, cooperatives, and camaraderie. Central questions guide us like, what do you see? What do you seek? What do you need? We gather towards our collective betterment, to Skillshare, asset frame, and build power. We know from the statistics that there is a lot more that we can do with our dollar. Not only can we grasp the attention of political leaders when we wield it, but we can institution build when we pool it. We can construct new townships when we put it up. We can save lives if we susu. This knowledge isn't new, so we gather to remember. Tulsa, St. Louis, Dallas, Rondo. Black power prior to capitalism ransacking our communities, a type of unity reliant upon our internal ingenuity. Areas constructed for you and me, I mean spaces that held the things that we need. A place of respite, somewhere we actually feel safe enough to breathe and release. We gather toward legacy. Intergenerational exchange, to craft a vision where youth are involved and elders also have a say. We gather toward a revolution with all of our names attached, a future, a design, an intention, all Black. We gather to reclaim, to envision, to forecast. We gather to architect a future built upon our past and the knowledge that we hold and embody. We gather towards sustainability, a plan that lasts. We gather in love and fellowship because to trust is a very large ask. We gather for the now, the next, and the past. We gather for economic freedom and liberation at last. To us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I mean, between our meditation and our spoken word, we have been truly, truly blessed with a great deal of inspiration. I'm in awe of the beginning of this conference, and I'm hopeful that you are here with me in that awe. We've got a very exciting next couple of days designed for you. I think that the first thing that I want to make sure that you guys do is at the registration table, you need to sign up for the bus tour that's going to be on Saturday. So during lunch, make sure you sign up for the bus tour. You'll hear more about it as we go through the conference. This conference could not have taken place without the hard work of several people. And very, very quickly, I'm going to ask Mr. Ron Hance, who is the founder and executive director of NDCC, Mr. Rapar Micah, founder and president and CEO of Nexus Community Partners, as well as Marcus Pope, president of Youth Prize. I'd like for them to come forward just for a few minutes so that they can give you a brief overview of their work and what we hope to accomplish here at the conference this week. So, Ron Hance, Rapar, and Marcus Pope.
LaDonna.
Yeah, LaDonna. Yeah. She's out here.
Putting the call out to LaDonna. She's here. May the ancestors guide my words, my thoughts, my deeds, and my direction. Good morning in Hotep to all of you. It is an inspiration and an uplifting to be in space with you this morning, to be in energy with you this morning. I found myself trying to manage my temperature, and I didn't know whether it was the temperature of the space or the temperature that you bring forth when we come together to lift each other up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are looking forward to spending this next couple of days with you, some days that we think and hope are filled with learning, with tapping wisdom, with lifting of spirit, with creating of new pathways. That we spend time in the Twin Cities, in the state of Minnesota, in the city of St. Paul, really pausing for a moment to concentrate on who we are and to tap into, as was said earlier, the genius that we hold to unleash the power that lives inside of us. We put a lot of time and care and attention into designing sessions that we hope create space for those who are just walking into this kind of work, as well as those who have been in it for years and for life. We know that you are the gift in this setting, that this conference is just a container. And we look forward to spending this time with you. Thank you for being here.
Oh. Well, good morning. I'm excited, and thank you, Rapar. I didn't know you, and I will share this. I didn't know you 5 months ago. We were just meeting. And it's been a wonderful experience and journey, listening to you, following you, your work. It's been a wonderful journey these last 5 months for me. So I want you to know that. Yeah. Well, we're here. And we're here to do work. Aside from networking and attending sessions and exploring ourselves, we're here to do work. Because we have to enlarge this opportunity through our connections. And so we got to work at, just connecting. So I'm looking forward to what this 3 days will bring forth. I'm looking forward to seeing the evolution and movement of the movement And I'm glad that you all are here. My blessings go out to you. And I'd like to be able to try to get to know and connect with all of you in some way and fashion. I think it's important. I think this is important for us to be in spaces like this so we can share and do some healing, because, this work can't go on without some healing. And we are here to heal and progress at the same time. So yeah. So, are we going to get the session started?
Good morning, everyone. I can hear that everyone in the room is getting all warmed up. We've already been blessed with the morning meditation. Thank you so much, Reverend. Spoken word with Tish. So I'm happy to be here. Feel the energy getting warmed up. Welcome to St. Paul, Minneapolis, the Twin Cities. We're so happy you're here. My name is Danielle Mkali. I'm a Senior Director of Community Wealth Building at Nexus Community Partners. Hi, Papa. And on stage with me, we have some really incredible people. I'm very honored to be able to help facilitate what we hope is just a really rich conversation about Black cooperation economics this morning. Hopefully it won't feel too, formulated. It'll feel like we're in each other's living room somewhere. But on the stage up here with me, to my far right, is Miss Valerie Shirley, the founder of Minnesota Deaf Muslims Minnesota Association. Did I get that right, Miss Shirley? Almost. Minnesota Deaf Muslim Community. Next to Miss Valerie, we have Mr. Ron Hans, who you already met briefly this morning, founder president of Network for Developing Conscious Communities, and have been facilitating and bringing us together as Black cooperators across the country for many, many years now. Welcome, Mr. Ron Hans. Just to my right, this is Miss LaDonna Sanders Redmond, fresh off the plane from Washington, D.C. She's from here. Well, we're claiming her. She's not necessarily from here. Okay, whatever. I'm claiming her, but she's not necessarily from here. But she did help organize a really incredible gathering in D.C. last week, 30 years of reproductive justice. Y'all can already feel how much the ancestors are pleased, and I haven't even made it all the way across the stage yet. Along with that work that LaDonna did last week, she also does diversity, equity, and inclusion work with Colluminate. She helped found the Friendship Store of the Seward Cooperative here in South Minneapolis. And before that did incredible food justice and economic justice cooperative work in Chicago. She also helped co-found the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship with me at Nexus Community Partners. We be together a lot. To my left, we have Mr. Marcus Pope, president of Youth Prize, has been doing incredible work really just creating spaces and investing and gathering the resources necessary for young people in our community to have the space to dream, build, and create the kind of lives that they want right now as young people and in the future. They're working on a really incredible project that I think we'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about today. where they're helping to support young people actually build and invest in a youth housing cooperative here in Minneapolis. To my far left, Mr. Rapa Makah, President and CEO of Nexus Community Partners, along with all kinds of institution building, in particular around helping people cooperate, come together, and raise the resources for people in our community to be able to build and do the things that they know are the right ways to go. So a philanthropic organizer, magician, and also my boss, and has just had throughout, before even his time at Nexus Community Partners, just a really long-standing commitment to cooperatives. There's more, I think, about each of them in your programs, and so please read more about all the incredible, I barely scratched the surface on each of these incredible folks. For our opening plenary this morning, the goal is that we'll just get into some conversation around Black cooperative history and significance to each of us, hear about what we're thinking about for Black cooperative futures, and what it will take for us to get us where we want to go. It's a super incredible time to be together. June is an amazing month. A great time to celebrate, connect, and reconnect around Black cooperatives. June is also Black Music Month. Who likes Black music? Okay. It's also Juneteenth. Juneteenth every day, but certainly every day in June, right? And it's Pride. A little bit more for Pride. Okay, thank you. Black economic cooperation is for all Black people, right? And it has been led by everyone. I was hoping this morning that we could start our conversation with each of you sharing about a lesson or what you appreciate about our Black cooperative economic ancestors and history. LaDonna, would you be willing to get us going on this?
Sure.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for having me on the panel. I'm really honored to be here. It is really beautiful to be in this room this morning, and I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. When I think about that question, I think about a woman who is in the middle of enslavement in the United States, say in the 1700s, who's hundreds of years into enslavement and hundreds of years from being removed from slavery. She will not see freedom, but she knows that freedom is coming. And so she lives yet another day and just simply does what she has to do under dire circumstances. And whenever I get discouraged, I think about her. I can't call her name. I don't know where she is. I don't know who her descendants are. But she goes forward. And she went forward for us to learn how to be here, for, as Rapa would say, for us to be. And so when I think about cooperation, I think about it a little bit differently than maybe our traditional idea today, where we form a group and we get together and we sit together and we talk and we figure out something to do together and we do that thing. Many of you all are probably building food co-ops or housing co-ops. But that woman was building existence. How do we cooperate together to live together? And so when I think about her, I'm forced to think about Ida B. Wells, who cooperated together. So Ida B. Wells is probably like one of my cooperative pioneers, and she's not always affiliated with the cooperative movement, but she plays a role sort of like I do, underneath the thing. Not so much in the middle of it, not so much leading it, not so much doing the day-to-day work, but sitting in support of and speaking in support of. So I would say my ancestral hero is Ida B. Wells. And do I have a second to tell the little story? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you're unfamiliar with Ida B. Wells and her role in cooperatives, first of all, I hope y'all have this book. I brought it with me because this is like the first copy of the book that I have. I have multiple copies of this book, but this is the first copy that I have.
Dr. Nembhard is in the house.
Oh, hey. Dr. Jessica, I had the pleasure of taking a class with Dr. Jessica. I'm gonna tell you how it was. It was kind of tough, and I read her book. But in this book, I found, I think the first time we invited you to come to Minnesota 10 years ago, September 29th, 2014, and the we included Nexus, so Nexus was in the middle. But in this book is a treasure trove of stories and ideas about how we cooperate. And one of the stories that they tell is a story of, that Dr. Jessica tells, is a story of the People's Grocery. And one of the things that is a theme in this book is that terror is always imminent after our cooperative success. And the People's Grocery in Memphis, Tennessee, in a community called The Curve, is one of those examples of a successful grocery store that met its demise because it terrified white people. Ida B. Wells was friends with the co-owners of the People's Grocery Store. And they say that this conflict started around two children who had marbles and were playing a game and got into a conflict. The adults got involved in that. But really what it was about was that this grocery store was more successful in the Curve than the white grocery store was across town. That's really what it was about. And what ensued was violence. I don't want to get into what happened. You all have heard the horrible stories of what happens to us when white mobs attack us. And so the inevitable happened. The men were killed, horribly so. Ida B. Wells was not in town at that time, but they sent her a note saying, if you come back, same thing gonna happen to you. That is when Ida B. Wells moved to Chicago and started to talk and write about an anti-lynching movement that needed to occur to highlight the horrors that happened. And every time she talks about it, she talks about the preceding issues. It is fear, it is white people's fear that leads to the demise sometimes of our co-ops, the horrible demise of it. So my hero this morning is Ida B. Wells. That's my ancestor for today.
Okay, who's moved? Anyone moved to respond to that question? Oh, you all are too? Good, yes, yes. Anyone else want to jump in on that, or keep it moving?
Am I on? Can you hear me? Yeah, I was reflecting on your comments. There you go. Take that. Go ahead. I was. Good morning again in OTAP. I was reflecting and thinking as you were talking and just remembering that sometimes as we do this work today, sometimes we go in search of what we think we need to build, to establish what we need in our communities, to build wealth, to create vision, to build institutions, to lift spirits, to do those. But oftentimes we don't need to really go in pursuit of any of that. Really what we need to do is just turn around that's sitting right behind us, not far, but close, not far, but close, is history and memory and wisdom that teaches us exactly what we need to know where we are at in the moment and how we go forward. That a lot of time gets spent trying to kind of educate, to inform, when really the work is oftentimes just about helping us remember what we already know. It's helping to seed us in the history and the profound wisdom and genius that has led us to where we are, where we're at today. And so I believe as in that story, it was laced with what happens when we do what we do, the violence that happens and so forth, but it was also laced with the wisdom and the insight and the forecast and the strength that we've always had. Mm-hmm. And that when we tap into that, we endure. Mm-hmm. When we tap into that, we rise. And so part of the message that I heard and the part of what I draw from the ancestors, and the reason I always call on them, is that they always have more than I do.
Absolutely.
That they always hold wisdom and insight that I can't hold alone. That the scope and the power of the knowledge and the experience that has traveled across hundreds of years is far greater than me. Mm-hmm. But it's what they pass on to me. And it's my role and responsibility to forward that.
Thank you.
I think...
Well, I can build on that. So Danielle mentioned, I'm at Youth Prize. We're working with young people to establish a housing cooperative. And in many ways, we are new to this work. And in many ways, I don't belong on this panel with this esteemed group. But in the spirit of collectiveness and of working together and supporting the new generation, I've been embraced by Rapa and Ron and others to kind of be a part of this journey where we continue to learn and grow together. And so, when you talk about valuing the wisdom of others and owning that responsibility to carry on the next generation, that's what the work of Youth Prize is all about. And I first got introduced thoroughly to cooperatives maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. I was in a conversation with Rapa. I had just taken over leadership at Youth Prize after about 10 years at the organization, and he started telling me in more depth the work they're doing around cooperatives. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna steal all of this and I'm gonna take credit for it. Because this could be a great part of my platform as a new leader to really uplift young people and their contributions. And I'll talk more about that work, but it's been amazing to see how at Youth Prize we've been embraced by Ron and our partners. And I think that's the spirit of what we've always done. And what I've learned from young people in this cooperative work is that they have a sense of collective consciousness that have brought us a mighty long way back to the days of slavery that LaDonna talked about. And that gives me hope as I have worked with young people who are talking about working together in new and different ways, and even challenging us as an organization to think differently, to be more bold, to be more collaborative, to challenge existing systems and norms of how they operate, to address the inequities that exist in our community. So it's a privilege and an honor to be up here with such an esteemed group. I'm a learner on this journey, and I've been soaking in and stealing from whoever I can to keep this work going and to engage young people in the work. So thank you.
And, young Black folks have been a part of cooperatives all along, right? Either of you want to talk a little bit more about how cooperatives have engaged young people and if things might need to change in the future and how we do that?
Well, yeah. Well, it's important to connect our young folks to this work. Many of them are doing this work not knowing that they're doing the work. Mm-hmm. They're working cooperatively together. And that's a good thing. What we need to add to it is to see it grow, to see it expand. And so this work that we all are doing is a part of that work that needs to be done. And making that connection between the past and the present.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many lessons, rich lessons to learn from the past that we need to bring forth. And I'm really hopeful that we're going to engage more young folks in this arena here. So we have some young folks that are participating, and I'd like to see it grow even bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it grow even more because I think it's important to build that intergenerational link between our young and our old, and taking the lessons to be learned to as growth serves to grow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, young people have always been the energetic force underneath movements. When you think back to not too long ago, I mean, within my lifetime, the contemporary civil rights movement and media, if you add media and young people together, you always see a turn in the movement. And when I think about the young people who decided on their own that they were going to march in Selma, they were going to be a part of the movement. They decided to be a part of the movement, and they got out there and they were and are a part of the movement. And when the media got a hold of the pictures of the young people in the movement, it galvanized the nation to support civil rights. So you can go back further and think about Ella Baker and her organizing efforts in the 1930s. Working with Young People's Cooperative, I think is the name of it, and organizing young people to cooperate. And not so much just organizing them, but helping them do what they were already planning to do and helping them to do that well. So I see the energy of young people is so really important to all of our movements. So welcoming them in and creating the platform for them to do the things that they most want to do is very important. I think I am inspired by young people's use of language and style and how, and, you know, like when we have graphic design and they take something that is quite ordinary and turn it upside down and inside out all the time. Every generation gets to determine its language, its culture, its music, how they want to be in the world. Every generation does that. And up until recently, there was a move to really try to suppress that. I am glad that we have the internet and TikTok and all these other kinds of social media things, because I think it helps young people see themselves, not just in their community, but all over the world. And they're able to see their humanity, not just what's wrong in their community, not just what might be wrong in their family, but what is right with them and what is right in the world and what the world has for them. And so what I hope is that cooperation is a vehicle for young people to see themselves as who they most want to be and who they can become.
Mm-hmm. If I could just add and kind of talk about our journey in terms of being challenged and learning from young people and our work as we've thought strategically about how we move as an organization. So back in 2021, we shifted our strategic framework to focus more on ownership, wealth building, and power among young people, and think about also how our organization can advance those attributes. And as a part of our process, we went and talked to young people and community around ownership and wealth building specifically. And so we were thinking about, you know, how do we advance wealth building? We were thinking about traditional strategies, and what they told us is that they didn't see wealth building as just individualistic. And they saw wealth as access to opportunity, and they wanted to challenge us to think about community wealth. They also pushed us to think about how do we address inequality and disparities and not just fit into the existing system that exploits as we think about wealth building. So how do we challenge inequality? How do we challenge the current system while also helping young people building wealth? And so as we reflected on the data we were gathering for young people, I was like, you know what? It may be time for me to leave working with young people because they're pushing us too hard. I don't know what to do. And so as we reflected, the first thing we did was we said, we need to really, and they pushed us in this, think about what that conversation I had with Rapa, cooperative economic strategies to advance wealth building and ownership, not as a kind of destination for wealth building, but as an entry point that aligned with their values as they talked about ownership and wealth building. So that was the first piece. The second big challenge that young people provided to us was really what is our responsibility as an organization to create a village that supports young people's desire for a wealthy community and to also challenge existing systems that perpetuate inequality. And so that's what we're on a journey to do. And you'll get a little taste of that in a workshop session that some of the young people connected to Youth Prize are doing a little bit later.
I would like to, you keep the microphone, Rapad, because this next one's coming to you first. Wondering what is needed to build lasting and sustainable ecosystems for cooperatives. We heard a little bit about the young people's vision just now. How do we position shared ownership within different systems, such as policy and government, education, and philanthropic institutions, to really help support and build and sustain these, the cooperative ecosystem?
Yeah, I put the question out because as I think about this conference and many other conferences that I've been in, the question that keeps coming to my mind is how do we think beyond the moment that we're in? Today, June 13th, in St. Paul, there is a conference with a lot of folks here that are inspired and committed and thinking forward. But we've been together in these kinds of settings before. True. And so the question that I keep asking myself is, what does it take for us to not move around events or gatherings, but move around agendas?
Yeah.
What does it call from us? What does it call for from us to think in a much more intentional way and to build across time without gaps, without periods of time to go that we're not together, or periods of time to happen that we're not together? What does that take? And I know that there's some elements that, as you spoke of, Danielle, that has to do with policy and funding and that sort of thing. But I really think that cooperation is a state of mind first. Mm. And that one of the things that we're challenged to it is not thinking about cooperation or cooperatives as a sector or a body of work, but as a cultural way of being. Right? Because the reality is this: if we don't ground ourselves in our own sense of culture and what it means to be in cooperation, then we will teach people how to treat us in the wrong way. If we're not rooted in and understand the deep value that lives in us, in our skin, in our organs, in our spirit, if we don't define cooperation from that place, and we fumble into other spaces trying to define it, others will define it for us. True. So part of the question is about what are the other institutions and alignments that we need to be involved with. But part of the question is how do we claim ourselves in this based on who we are?
Sure.
And how do we carry that into spaces and stand on it? How do we have conversations in political environments or funding environments where we don't move off of what we know about ourselves? But those are the things, because again, I've been around for a little while, not a whole lot, but a little while, right?
You've been around for a minute.
And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. It's almost like we dig in, we rise consciousness, we celebrate and engage in the moment, and then we move forward forgetting. It's almost like we forget better than we remember. So part of this for me is that,
That's real.
And I hope that this comes out of this conference, that there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of skills that'll take place. But I hope that folks in this room dig really, really deep and tap each other in a way that we don't see in the brochures or any of that kind of stuff. It's the stuff that we're going to need. Then I think we can go into spaces with philanthropy. I've been working with philanthropy and government for a long time. I know if you don't know how to define yourself, you're going to get defined.
Yep.
And then your job and your task is to work yourself out of that definition. So I'm hoping that, I know that there's the need for capital. I know that there's a need for policy and incentives and those sorts of things. But I also know that there's a need for us.
Absolutely.
And that we have to start with us.
Thank you, Rupa. I really feel connected to the idea that there's more than enough in the universe, and that our need to compete with each other is contrary to our need to cooperate. But it's hard. And some of the challenges that we face, we had this long conversation in Washington. Danielle was just talking about it. The 12 women who got together 30 years ago to create a theoretical framework around reproductive justice. And that theoretical framework is an international framework now, and many people use it to talk about body autonomy. I used it to talk about food justice, because I believe that food access and land access is really about self-sufficiency. But one of the things that was prevalent in this conversation was that people had fell in love and out of love with each other and hadn't spoke to each other for a long time. And so when we got together, one of the women, her name is Loretta Ross, talked about ways in which we can be together even when we don't know how to be together. It's hard to be together. And instead of calling people out, to call on people, call people in. Call on people to do better, to be better. Call on myself sometimes, frankly, if I'm just going to be honest with you, to do better and be better. Is really, I think, like the nucleus of this idea of cooperating, right? Because you can have a cooperative, the business, you can practice cooperation, the action, but internally you have to be a cooperator. And so really cultivating a spirit of cooperation and working against the norm, which is to compete and to compare.
Yep.
Work to see the other's value. Work to see your value in relationship with the other. We cannot cooperate by ourselves. The fact is that we need each other.
Yeah.
If we're going to survive, we got to know who we are, and we got to know why we are here and what we are supposed to do. That's where the ancestors are so important. Because we can call on them to remember why they prayed for us to be here. Somebody prayed for each and every one of us to be here today. And while I'm thinking about it, I forgot. We are standing on contested land, y'all. This land that we stand on in Minnesota and the land that we stand on in the United States is contested by so many different stories. But the main story that I want to bring out right now is the story of our relationship with this land and indigenous people.
Yeah.
And so how do we cooperate on contested land? It's not our land.
Yeah.
But yet we are called here to steward it. And so as we learn how to steward this land in relationship to those who are indigenous to this land, as we learn how to steward our communities in relationship to who we know we want to be, let us remember who prayed for us to be here, who prayed us forward, who brung us forward. And let's call on that energy when we go to the funder, when we go to the grant making meeting, when they send out the RFP and everybody in the world's got the RFP and all of y'all are doing individual responses to that RFP. Sometimes people step forward. It's like, I'm gonna wait for the next one. Why don't you get it this time? I'm gonna help you. Thanks.
Mr. Ron?
Oh, yeah. I just, just listening to the comments and I'm at a point for me where self-realization really kicks in. It's really kicked in on me. Self-realization, where I am, who I am. How do I want to show up? How do I hold myself accountable? It really has kicked in for me. And one of the things I'm challenged by, we all are challenged by something, is the thought that sometimes I think we're losing it. Sometimes I just feel like we're losing it. That we're there, but we're not there. But we should be there. And that's my challenge, trying to deal with my emotions around that. Because I know that we all are inherently good, and we want the best for everybody. I know this. This is inherent. But our practice shows up sometimes differently. You know what I mean? Really. Our practice shows up sometimes differently because we let the emotion get involved in building the relationship that we need to build with each other. And that comes from still the whole thing of healing. Because we're all bringing something into the space that maybe in some ways can be seen unhealthy. And we practice it. But, I see this as a major challenge for us as people to overcome. But it's a part of what we have to live with. You have to learn, live with it. And sometimes I just think we just carry it along. And so I'm really hopeful that, I've shared with a few people, one of the things I see in this conference is that we started on the East Coast in 2022, 23 we went out to the West Coast, and now in 24 we're up here in the Midwest. What's left for us? We gotta go south. Yeah, we gotta go south. And we gotta build intentional relationships. Don't let this moment get by without connecting to somebody. Don't let this moment get by without connecting to somebody. Meet someone. Because we're gonna have to be able to just bring it home and deal with what we have to deal with, but we have to keep this train moving. And that's why young folks is important. At least know the principles of what cooperation means. and how we should show up for them in their spaces that they be in. Yeah. So I see that that being important.
Good.
And so I'm looking for myself to grow. And I tell you something, some of you may not know, but we in working with others, it takes a deep dive to give up some of your stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because you got stuff that you hold on to, but when you work with others, you got to relinquish that. You got to let that go. And serve, and let it be served to the highest good, which is to cooperate. Yeah, to be in a cooperative spirit. And I'm really looking forward to the future. I'm really looking forward to the future, and literally still dealing with the present. Because we can't deal with the future without dealing with the present moments. Because some of these present moments are going to create avenues for the future. And how we show up, how we engage ourselves, what commitment we make. Yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ron. I was, as you were talking, a couple of things that came to mind that I just want to touch on. One is the fact that for us, as we do this work, it's not an occupation; it's a vocation.
Yeah, that's right.
And with occupations, you live out a period of time, and you look to retirement. And there's a number, whatever that number is, 65, 67, 70, whatever it is, you look to that number and then you sit down. With vocation, you don't get to sit down. It's purpose-driven. It's a calling, and so there is no retirement. You're working when you're 99. If you're breathing and you're up and you're about, right? So that means something, I believe. I believe that parallel to cooperation is collective care.
Yes.
That when we even when we are in the work of cooperating and building, we are still holding this thing that we will work ourselves until we hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
That if you're not willing to fall over, if you're not willing to work until you fall down, then you're really not down for the cause. And the reality is that care, both individual care and collective care, is fundamental to doing the work. And if we don't build that in, well, nobody builds it in for us. If we don't think about the care that it takes, I always think about maximum performance requires maximum care. If we don't care for ourselves in this work, we don't last in this work. And so I just offer to you that as we go about it, this idea of enlightened self-care, not selfishness, not self-centeredness, but enlightening that I know that as I care for myself, I'm able to care for others. And if we don't do that, I don't think we carry forward.
So, Rapa, would you say that the future for Black folks in cooperation is collective and individual care too? Absolutely.
I think there's a community of self that in our and historically in our culture, the individual thing, even myself was community. My individual self was community. And that I understood and experienced myself as a collective, even though I was one. And that kind of going back and pulling forward is absolutely necessary. So I do think that there's a piece of it about us, and that's why I used enlightened self-care Because I think that enlightened means that I know that it doesn't translate into individualism. I know that it doesn't translate into selfishness. I know that it doesn't translate into self-centeredness. What it does is it calls on me to take care of myself so that I can help take care of us. And that those things are woven together.
And so I would love it if, yes, if each of you could just take a moment and tell us a little bit, reflect a little bit with us about Black folks' future in cooperation. I know in the North Star Black Cooperative Fellowship, we talk a lot about how our ancestors' work was really, and the work that we're doing today is Black futuristic work. It's sci-fi work. We're building new worlds together. And I think it's absolutely critical to our future if we claim today where it is that you all think that we're headed.
Yeah, I think I just want to echo your point around self-care and how that's so critical for us to give ourselves permission to care for ourselves and to create a culture of care among each other and support each other. I think the other thing that I think is a part of the future, needs to be a part of the future, is really deep intergenerational work as we think about collective work and cooperative work. And I think, in this country at this time, we're divided in so many different ways, but even within race, we're divided generationally. And I see it big time, and I think there's a lot that we can gain for figuring out how do we address the bridge generational divides within our own community to have collective progress and to build a more collective consciousness.
I would say thank you. The future of our work is international as well. I have had the pleasure of working with folks who are in Ghana and forming cooperatives, cocoa cooperatives. And one of the things that they have talked about is the future of Africa as a continent relies on the African American in the United States reconnecting with the homelands that we can and really building relationships there, building community there. And so for me, I would implore us to consider internationally connecting the diaspora through cooperation. However, I have no idea how you're going to do it. I don't know. And that's what's so beautiful about the future. You don't have to know. It will evolve. It will unfold. The way that I work is that I work myself out of jobs. If I get a job, I take that job, and I take that job with the idea that someone else is going to do that work behind me, so I try to leave that job in a way that someone else can do the job behind me. So you got to leave these little breadcrumbs for people to follow you, no matter what age you are. You can start leaving these breadcrumbs so people can follow up behind you, know what you did, and maybe even know what you were trying to do, and then put their little spin on it and take it even further.
You get to close us out, Ron.
Wow, so powerful, so powerful. Now, I'm just going to speak just directly to you and just share the fact that we have to connect. We have to build. That this is okay, but it ain't where we want to be at. We want to be at a level higher than this. I want us to challenge ourselves, challenge each other to build. I need not tell you what's on the landscape out here in this country. Let's not be disconnected to what's happening politically. There's a push in this country to take away every human right that we have as people. There's a movement. I mean, this man got 76 million people to vote for him. 76 million people in the last election voted for him. hey, wake up. Wake up. And we got to get organized. We got to get down to building what I think is the movement going forward. And so we got to build it in communities, your community, this community, that community, and we got to connect it. Make sure it's connected. It's going to take some work. I'm just laying it out there to you. It's going to take some work if we're going to really maximize our efforts to our benefit. Yeah. So look at yourselves. Ask yourself, what commitment are you making? It could be a 1% commitment, but have a 50% output attached to it. But we got to be doing something, and we got to be building together. Really.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, LaDonna. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Rapa. Thank you to each of you for showing up and for all the Black cooperative work that each of you are doing. It's wonderful to be here with each of you. I think we could all say that we love being here with you this morning. We hope that this was a great start to the conference for you all. And that's it for our opening plenary. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.